Hi, good morning everyone. Let's get started with our next topic, which is on the system overview for SAP. Okay, in this topic, we will see about the SAP system, how the operations of SAP system works. Okay, here you can see that we have a list of users who is trying to work and perform some operations, perform some activity in an SAP system. So these are the list of users. They are connecting from their desktop. So they have the SAP GUI installed in their PC, and using that they try to connect to an SAP system and perform the say manufacturing operation, or say this one is performing say sales operation, distribution operation, and HR related operations. So all that operation is being performed by these folks. And here you can see that all these requests, so whatever request is there, they come from the presentation layer, that is from the presentation server to the dispatcher first. So all this is coming to this dispatcher. The dispatcher writes them to the dispatcher queue, and the dispatcher pulls the request from the queue on a first in first out basis. Each request is then allocated to the available work process. So whichever work process is free, the dispatcher will allocate the first in first out request to the available work process, and the work process will handle the request one at a time. Okay, so dispatcher, this actually is a program which manages the resources for the R3 application. So all the requests from the user, they come to the dispatcher, and which in turn gets allocated to the work processes. So only one dispatcher per application server is there. Okay, but you can have say a minimum of 2 dialog work process per dispatcher. So just take note that one dispatcher and at least 2 or more than 2 work processes should be there. Okay, so that is about the dispatcher part. So dispatcher, it balances the workload between the processor, and it takes care of the buffer management in the main memory. Okay, it establishes the connection with the presentation layer. So whenever any request comes to this, it will, once the work process completes the request, dispatcher will send it back to the presentation layer. Okay, so that is about the dispatcher piece. So now let's get into the other dialog work process. So these work process, they are called the dialog work process. Okay, so they are the one who are responsible for the interactive tasks of the SAP system. Dialog work process, they execute only one dialog step at a time and for immediately freed up for the next user request. So they are constantly switching between the users. Okay, so here you can see that how the flow of information is taking place. So from the terminal work process, that is from the end user using SAP GUI, the request is coming, that is from the presentation layer to the dispatcher. Okay, so dispatcher, before the dispatcher handles it, it remains in the request queue. So once the dispatcher looks into it and it finds out a free work process, it will allocate the work process, and this work process in turn will connect to the database if required, and it will perform the database related activity. And once the activity is done, it will send the control back to the dispatcher, which in turn will pass the results to the presentation layer, and they will be seen by the user in SAP GUI. Okay, so that is the data flow which takes place during this process. Now let's look at the different activity which takes place. So the type of different activity which happens during this. So first activity is the dialogue activity. That is, a dialogue was established, that is in the real time the user is sending something and he is getting the result back. That is the dialogue. So dialogue work processes, they are responsible for the interactive task of the SAP system. Dialogue work process, they execute just one step at a time, and whenever they are free they take up the next user request. So they constantly switch between the users. Okay, so here you can see that this is your dispatcher, and the type of the work processes, you have the dialogue work process, you have update work process, in queue work process, spool work process, and the background jobs work process. So update work process, it will take care of the updates in the SAP system. Okay, so any update, say for example user is trying to make some changes, which will be handled by the update work process. Okay, you should have a minimum of one update work process. Okay, and this will take care of processing update requests. Okay, now here you can see that there is a spool work process. You need to have at least one spool work process, and this takes care of the spooling and sequential data passing to the output devices, for example printers and all. Okay, then this is your NQ work process. This process ensures that updates are serialized with the help of lock table. Okay, say for example if someone wants to update the same record in the database, so it will not allow this it to be updated at the same time. It will establish a lock so that when one user is updating, other will not be able to update it. So that is an NQ work process. Then this is your background jobs work process, which executes program that run without the interaction from the user. So we need to have at least two background work process for each SAP system. Okay, they take care of heavy duty work without the user interaction. So that is one type of work you can see, that is category A. Okay, so all the work process related stuff. Okay, then you have the message server. Okay, you have gateway. Okay, so so far we have seen the different work processes. Okay, now the message server, this is used by different application server to exchange data and internal messages. So this is where it will connect with the different systems, different servers. Okay, so it route messages such as updates or batch job starts between application servers, and we should have one message server per system. Okay, now let's look at the gateway server. So this is your gateway server. So this allows communication between R3 system, R2 systems, external application, interfaces, and it exchanges large amount of information between application servers. Gateways can reside on any of the connected systems. So these are the three main categories. So this is your different work processes for dialogue, update, locks, jobs, spooling, and this is for message server, gateway servers. Okay, so now let's continue further. Here you can see that how the update and locks are working in the SAP environment. Okay, so updates is responsible for making database changes required by either the dialogue or the background work processes. And for this to work properly, or for it to provide better performance, this process should be on the database server. Okay, so this is your update work process, and it works hand in hand with the NQ work process, which is responsible for the lock management. It synchronizes database access for the multiple application servers, it keeps a lock table in the main storage. Okay, and we should have at least one NQ server to ensure database or data integrity. Okay, so that is about the NQ process. And here you can see that these are the different work process which is there. The same thing in the different format. This is your database instance and these are the different work process you have. Okay, so that is pretty much I wanted to cover in this particular topic. Thank you for joining me and have a nice day. Bye bye.